now comes the time for our power-packed panel discussion on challenges of implementing STEM education. So the panel will be led by our moderator, Zainab Mehdi. And I'll introduce Zainab. Zainab is the Director of Innovation and Digital Technology. Hello, Zainab. And Zainab has worked across the Wellington schools for GEMS education. Currently teaching computer science, she has been leading the department at GEMS Wellington International School for nearly 5 years. Zainab is deeply passionate about student leadership and enjoys providing STEM opportunities for students to gain 21st century skills using a range of technologies such as robotics, AI, and others. Now, we would also like to introduce our distinguished panelists for this panel. And with us, we also have Ritesh Danak. Ritesh is a Chief Innovation and Digital Officer. Hello, Ritesh. So Ritesh is a Chief Innovation and Digital Officer at GEMS Modern Academy. Ritesh works extensively with industry partners to bring in the latest technology and innovation initiatives to impact teaching and learning practices at Modern. Digital transformation is at the core of his work. Ritesh has led teams at Modern to become SAP Next Gen Young Thinkers Chapter, Microsoft Showcase School, and Common Sense Media Certified School. Ritesh believes in innovation with purpose and pedagogy-first approach for technology integration. Our second panelist for today is also Annie Shaw. And Annie is the Design and Technology teacher at Northfield School. Hello, Annie. And Annie, as an educator of design and technology for nearly 15 years, has always had a passion for STEM. Throughout her time in schools, she has continuously strived to raise the profile of STEM throughout the schools, and more recently, as the Director of Innovation within a high-achieving school in Dubai. As a woman in male-dominated industry, she has created initiatives to encourage girls into STEM subjects and careers, contributing to closing the gender gap. Thank you so much, Annie. And our third panelist for today is Almas Qureshi, the Head of Technology Secondary at Raffles World Academy. Hello, Almas. And Almas is the Head of Technology for Secondary School. She has redesigned and restructured the updated MYP design curriculum to include STREAM for students in order to enhance their creative and critical thinking skills within a global context. She plays an active role in shaping the strategic direction of the school's technology initiatives through contributing professionally to a variety of Olympiad initiatives and events. Almas has successfully organized TEDx Youths, the Ivy Academic Olympiad, and the Ivy Math Challenge for the Innoventures Group. A warm welcome to all of our panelists now, and over to you, Zainab. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kat, for that introduction. I'm really excited to be here. We've got an amazing expert panel here who all have different types of roles within their schools and industries, and they've all got different types of experiences to be able to offer us today. Please, if you have any questions, this is the time to ask them. So please use the Q&A which is at the bottom. Please type in your questions into there. If you want to direct a question to a particular person, please feel free to do so. Okay, so we'll start off with Ritesh. How are you?
I am good, Zainab. Good to be here.
Excellent. So you're a successful Chief Innovation and Digital Officer, but what does innovation mean? Because this can mean different things. What does this mean to you?
So if I were to start with one word, innovation would probably mean mindset. People need to be having a positive and growth mindset to have innovation in their lives. And to dwell further, innovation is making or improving things for the better. It could be, as simple as changing something in your technology that teachers are using, which can impact students' learning in a positive way. Now, it's about making possibilities or opportunities for students to have their design, their ideas, their prototyping, their tinkering, playing with various technologies they have in their lives. And I think as educators, we just need to, take the expertise that the students themselves have and hone that to impact teaching and learning throughout the entire curriculum and schooling experience.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, continue. Please continue.
It's not just about tools or processes, I must say. I mean, you can have n number of tools and processes in your place, but if it's not being used meaningfully, it's not going to have an impact that it's supposed to have. That's what I would like to say about innovation.
I agree. That's probably one of the largest struggles that people have. There's a lot of pressure to integrate technology, isn't there? And sometimes it's very difficult to work out what is useful technology or what is technology that is just replacing something that was already working. So I think that's a bit of a struggle that some people are going through. Thank you, Ritesh. My next question is for Annie. How are you, Annie?
Hi, good, thanks, Zainab.
Excellent. So some innovation leaders, they have many hats. The innovation leaders that I've worked with before have intense teaching timetables, really big workloads. What advice can you give to innovation leaders to be able to prioritize implementing STEM in education?
Yeah, so something that I kind of probably struggled with a little bit when I started as Director of Innovation at Wellington as well, is kind of knowing what exactly is important and what could maybe wait and when to implement things. So instead of just trying to do everything at once, which obviously doesn't work, and especially so I was also head of design and technology as well, so balancing everything was quite a challenge. So something that was really, really useful for me was to find out who kind of my people were and who I could work with really well. And I think in some big schools as well, some people can get lost a little bit, and people can you need to find out people's passions. So I did quite a lot of work with a lot of people around the school, speaking to them, just being personable and finding out what people's interests were, if people wanted to kind of lead on different things. And that really built up innovation across the school, because I knew that there was people in science who wanted to lead on a STEM initiative or a competition, and someone in computer science wanted to lead something and needed a bit of leadership experience. So it's about finding those people who and building that structure across the school, which was probably the most important thing. And kind of the first thing, once you've got your vision sorted out, is to find out who you can actually work with, because it can be if you're working across a large school, that's a massive job, and taking that time to speak to people. Also, something else that I found really useful was reaching out to parents, to students, to ex-students, to staff, to find out, are there links within the school community that could be then exploited and used within school? And it's a very kind of easy link to make, and something that's really, really effective. And then allowing students to say, oh, someone's parent is an engineer and they're working in this company and they're doing very, very well, and can they come in and speak to the students and really motivate and inspire them? Obviously, organisation skills, without a doubt, is something that you really need lots of, and just being personable and having time for people and listening to kind of other people's ideas, and also other people around the school, heads of department, what are their visions, can they work with you on something, but just try not to take on everything yourself, because that is not going to work in the long run.
Excellent. Thank you, Annie. And I've worked personally with Annie, and I think everything you've just said is exactly what you did. I think the idea is about empowerment. I think some innovation leaders can feel a little bit lonely, especially when it's your job to implement STEM in a school. It can be quite daunting.
It can be isolating, yeah.
Of course, it's isolating. It's like you're by yourself and you have to implement this massive job, and it's really hard to do. So I really like the idea of finding key strengths in people, similar to what Ritesh was saying in terms of finding key strengths in students. It's the same way, finding key strengths in staff and empowering them to be able to take some leadership responsibility. Thank you, Annie. Almaz, how are you doing?
Doing good. Thank you so much, Zainab.
Excellent. What advice can you give to schools that have a really low or zero budget? There's a lot of schools out there that are really struggling financially to be able to have some money or finance being directed towards STEM and STEM activities and resources. What advice can you give them?
Zainab, as our previous presenter, Stephen, pointed out, that design thinking and STEM education is all about mindset. And that is what I would suggest to all the schools who have, low budget or a zero budget, that it's not about with fancy gadgets. It's about creating the mindset and developing the mindset among the students. I would just give you an example that in India, you have got a lot of areas which are where students do not have an access to technology, the tribal areas or the villages. So there is a foundation, which is Augustus Foundation. So what they do is that they provide kits, and they don't have any fancy equipments onto that. They're just pictographs within sequence order, and they drop the kits over there. So that students or the children who are over there, they explore it, finding the link. And then they went over there and checked that how they are performing. So what was an activity which was like a weekly activity, it turned out into alternate days, and now it happens every day. So there you see that it was just simply with some instructions, and students started to follow. And now getting back into the question, because this is something that where it was a foundation which was working. Now we are looking into the schools who are into the zero budget or very low cost activities. So where I would say the important thing as a teacher comes in is your passion and your creativity. Look around for yourself. It is not about robotic kits. It's not about those bots over there. It is about finding things which are around you. In our teaching closet, you'll find straws. You'll find we print worksheets. Those papers, like you can teach the concepts of bridges just by using with papers. Right? So look around yourself, things are there. And looking for, get yourself involved into social media. There are teachers who are ready to share their learning there, as Makeable One or Autodesk does. There are loads of material online that which you can implement in your lessons. And that's where, where you need to start thinking onto it. So your mindset has to be over there. And as Annie pointed out, that about with student leadership, that is also one of the important things that where teachers with or the schools with low budget needs to start thinking in, that students need to have confidence in the students. Let students take the ownership, like with coding clubs, STEM clubs. So they bring in their own ideas, and where they will not ask you for that. Okay, they will bring in the rubber bands, they'll bring in with straws and things like that, and where they are sharing their expertise with their fellow students. And when they see the things happening, like I could see that students bringing in with Pepsi cans, which they're using in for creating satellites and stuff like that. So they bring in their own concepts, and when they feel that ownership and they feel that they are being given a responsibility, you see that things starting to roll. And last not but the least, which I would say that as educators, we hesitate in taking part in competitions. If you see, there are loads of events which happen around us, and at times we feel that, oh, we do not have those facilities to take part into it. But I would say that I've practiced myself as well, that when we didn't have enough of those like, for example, drones, that at that time we didn't have, I'm talking about 7 or 8 years back. So there was an event which happened that they provided students with the kits, and students had to register. So that they learned the concepts of drone, and which they now apply it, like, for example, with package delivery drones and things like that. So look around for events, look around for the materials around you, look into, let your creativity kindle you. So that is what I would suggest for the low cost, where you don't have budget or zero budget, to focus on creating the mindset rather than focusing on the fancy gadgets.
Excellent. And actually, someone in the comments have also echoed that point there. Afef Sahi, thank you for your comment there. Absolutely true. It's about mindset, as some schools have tools and kits, however, it ends up in cupboards. That is very true. It does end up just collecting dust in the cupboard and not actually being used. And if you don't have the correct mindset, then the tools aren't going to be used in the right way. Ritesh, so in terms of industry links, I understand you have quite a lot of industry links. What is the best way for schools to go about being able to obtain these industry links? As a teacher, you're very much like in the classroom. It can be sometimes quite difficult because you're supposed to be teaching STEM, but then you've never been an engineer, or you've never been in that type of industry. So what advice would you give to schools who are struggling with that connection?
So let me just start by saying that Annie and Alma's fantastic points that you have covered so far, and I would concur with all of them. The primary goal of educators is to develop and shape our students to become change makers of the future, where they have an impact on workforce, business, industry, etc. So my advice to educators would be to create a strategy around industry experts in terms of calling them for talks at school, in terms of having their projects which they are doing mentored by the industry experts, and finding internship opportunities for higher grade students which will help them develop their skills. More importantly, try and build a network of your parents. Tap into the parents' expertise, because you have a huge amount of students who are coming to you. Parents are working in industries. We are in industry 4.0 now, and probably education is industry 3.0 at the moment. To bridge this gap, you need to actually look outwards. Look at your parents. Bring in your parents as industry experts, because they'll be happy to help. You'll be surprised. We just had one mail sent to the parents, and I had about 300 parents ready to do sessions for my students, and we had a student conference. So it's about having an opportunity-seeking mindset, where you as educator are just talking to your leaders. Leaders will play a very important role here. They will have to support your aspirations to bring in industry experts in, but I think don't leave that to chance. You need to have a strategy to make the industry come into the education classroom. Have exhibitions for industries. You may have themes like challenge-based learning, where students are solving a lot of local and global problems. Call the industries and tell them this is the solution that they want to create. How can you help? And that's where it starts. So that's what I would like to say.
Excellent. And I think that's really useful. It's really clear advice there. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a question just from the attendees. Sonali Roy, and this one's for Annie. Sonali Roy, is the use of technology mandatory in STEM and STEAM projects? Does it need to be related to a programming language or directly associated with technology lessons? What additionally can be considered as technology?
Kind of following on from what Alma said about, we don't need, like, different schools have different budgets, they have different things available, different countries. So what I think the most important thing is that the STEM education is available no matter what shape or form it comes in. We just have to expose our students to the best possible solutions that we have within our grasp. So it's not always important to have technology. If it's available, great, use it. See what's out there. Could you form a link with industry and get some funding from a company to help set up some 3D printers in the school to show the students how their projects come to life or their designs are made into a reality. But no, I think it's all about adapting what you have and really opening up your mindset, like Ritesh said, to whatever opportunities are out there. But I think as educators, we've got to be proactive. Those companies, those industries aren't going to come to us. Sometimes we're lucky and sometimes they do maybe pop you an email and it's like, oh great, but we have to be proactive and we have to seek those out. And that's something that I've done throughout my career, is try to make those links with industry, not just for to allow the students to really see what is going to happen when I leave school, when I graduate from university. What am I going to do? Like, what opportunities are out there? So I think it's making that link, and our jobs are hard enough, but we are passionate and we will make those links for our students. So it's really individual down to those schools.
Thank you. Excellent, Annie. Thank you so much. Almaz, there's one of our attendees have stolen one of my questions for you, but it was about stream. So we've had kind of their STEM, C, and this is kind of a question afterwards for all participants. Something that I've always wondered is STEM kind of going through a bit of an identity crisis? But one of those aspects is stream. And one of our attendees, Aisha, she's asking, how would you implement stream? So I know, Almaz, this is something that you lead in your school. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Sure, Zainab. So when we look at stream, STEM now, or STEAM, is now extending to STREAM, which is basically adding one more layer to it, which is about with reading and writing. Now, as the previous speakers have talked about with the 21st century skills like communication, collaboration, creative and critical thinking. So STREAM is all about that where it helps to infuse these skills into our curriculum and also helps in developing the inquiry cycle. That is the most important thing what STREAM helps to develop. Like, just to give you an example, like as when we're talking about STREAM, that how it could be, right? So as a teacher, I might just pose in that if I'm onto my STEM mode, okay, I would ask my students to develop or redesign a space. That is where my STEAM thinking is coming into. Now, if I put my STREAM hat on, I would change that question into something that, okay, let's think about social innovation. So it's the same thing what I'm talking about, but what I'm bringing in is social innovation and the terms over there. So when I pick with these terms, the student has to first go back and see that what social innovation means. What are the case studies over there? How can I implement that into the scenario what my teacher is asking for? It's the same thing what I'm asking him to redesign maybe a classroom or an empty area. But what I'm trying now is to give him a pointer over there with social innovation. So that is what, STREAM triggers the inquiry cycle, which we actually want, because you are teaching, we all need to realize that we are teaching the Gen Zs. They are born with technology, right? So if you're bringing in the old concepts over there, they are going to be distracted very soon. And that is one of the challenges which we have with the Gen Z, is that they get distracted very quickly. So where you're bringing in these concepts, it helps them into the thinking mode. And also when we talk about with STREAM, as we'll say that STEM or STEAM is into, where multidisciplinary comes into action as well, which is not just limited to the core subjects of science, technology, engineering, and math, but you're making it multidisciplinary, because when you're talking about with STREAM, a child would look into with writing the scripts, getting onto the arts, expressive arts, and asking that how to pitch my product. So, like you see that there are different subjects, multidisciplinary comes into action as well. So it's not just with one area which is being tapped, you're looking into the holistic development of the student. And that is what where I felt the beauty of STREAM, that which we need to embed in our curriculum.
Excellent, thank you, Almaz. I appreciate that. With Ritesh, we've spoken about a little bit about in terms of some challenges that people come across in terms of money, resources and whatnot. What is actually your biggest challenge in trying to integrate technology into the classroom? What do you find that's probably the most difficult obstacle at the moment?
So let me start by saying that this could be very, very subjective to the context of every school. And for us, it's just being about, getting up to speed with the available technology, consolidating what we currently have, and then trying to make an impact on what the students are learning in the classrooms. So the challenge comes from the new fads, so to say, which come into the market. Educators are very, very prone to that. We are all very excited about new tools coming to the market. But what happens?
I was waiting for someone to say that.
Yeah. So my advice to teachers would be actually to try to see the impact it's going to have on learning of your students. If that's a challenge, there's no need to change the tool that you're using, because it's doing the job for you. If it's not making a transformative impact on the learning process, you should not be changing to that. Just don't just fall into the fads of new technology coming into the market every now and then. That's the biggest challenge for educators. 10 every day thrown at us. try to use it, but then that's a challenge actually.
Yeah, and social media plays a big role in this, doesn't it, when it comes to marketing? And you see another school like, oh, they're using drones, I have to use drones, I have to use everything. So it plays a huge part in it, and trying to work out, and people constantly feeling behind as well, which can also be really frustrating for some leaders. Okay, Annie, what techniques have you used that have got students excited about STEM in the past? Because I've worked with some of your students and they have been so inspired by you and the way that you teach them and the different activities that you build for those students. So what's your secret?
Passion, I would probably say, is the biggest thing. So I'm so passionate about my subject, and I think that is one of the reasons why there are a lot of students that opt to choose to take design and technology or engineering. I give them opportunities. So I try to do a lot of things. So not only create links with businesses and industries. So COVID stopped trips. So then we just kind of looked at it from a different angle and thought, right, okay, so I can't take the students out of the classroom. I'll bring the businesses and industry into the classroom via webinars. We had some lovely workshops. So we had students take part in an architecture workshop, which they did online, and they actually created something as well. So we didn't see that as a barrier. We just saw it as an opportunity to change up a little bit what we were doing originally. In the UK, we have STEM ambassadors. So this is a service that we can kind of contact people within businesses and industry to come into school as well. And something that I've done in the past a few times is kind of a STEM day where these STEM ambassadors come in and do little workshops for the students. And I've also done that with kind of encouraging more girls into engineering and into STEM subjects by approaching women engineers or women within the STEM industry to come in and inspire the students that way as well. Student leadership is very important to me, and one of the questions was, is it a kind of innovation just digital technology? And I don't think it is. I think student leadership is massive. Zainab does some amazing work with student leadership. And we have students leading so many clubs, so many opportunities for other students within the school. And quite often they come to us and say, oh, I've got this idea. Can you kind of just facilitate or help it happen? And that's what we want students to do, that we want them to come up with the ideas ultimately. And I had a really, really great group of girls last year. So I had 9 year 12 girls that ran so we call it STEAM. So again, we've got lots of these different acronyms. So we've got STEAM, and we call them the STEAM Sisters, and they created this after school club, and it was online because we couldn't do it face to face, for year 5 to 6 girls who are really interested in STEAM. And they set them little challenges each week. We did one of the girls actually did a live bake along, so they made some biscuits, some festive biscuits, and it's about getting the students interacting like that as well. What else? I feel like I just do.
We could talk all day about.
No, I could just talk all day about different things.
There's so many examples, aren't there?
Yeah. So another question was about kind of resources. There are so many resources out there. Like Alma
What's your go-to? What's your kind of go-to for resources?
So I do a range of things. I'm on quite a lot of social media groups and Twitter and different things for different educators within STEM, so I get ideas from them. That's a brilliant resource. The Royal Engineering Society, they have lots of on their website, they have lots of resources. We have the STEM Centre in the UK, which is an amazing resource. It's been around for as long as I can remember, and they do training, they do online training, they do we've had resources sent into school from them, and it's they are really, really good. But other teachers is such an invaluable resource.
Yeah, I find that as well. Yeah, it's the network of teachers, right? It's the network of teachers that you can work with, and now there's no borders to this.
No barriers.
Yeah, exactly. The world is such a small place, and you can in this way as well that you can connect with other teachers, and we're all the thing is, our challenges are quite similar to each other, which is really interesting. That was Manish's question. Thank you, Manish, for that. Almaz, There is a question
Yes,
that's come in from an attendee. Is design thinking, this is from Sajitha, is design thinking also being encouraged in primary school, or is it only a secondary school focused area at this point?
That's a very valid question and a good question, Sajitha, that you have asked about design thinking only valid for secondary. I would say design thinking process starts from kindergarten. You cannot limit it only to the secondary, because STEM, STEAM, stream, whatever you name it, or design thinking, you name it, that is a process right from when you're teaching them, like letters and things. So it starts from there. And the thing is that it is not categorically named as design thinking in the primary, but it is embedded into their teaching and learning activities. And as I come from an IB school, so I would give you an example from an IB perspective. Like when you're thinking about the PYP exhibitions, where you bring in the inquiry cycle, where students take their ownership about with an idea and things like that. It is that is where that you can see the design thinking being applied over there. And that's not just a process that what they do in grade 5. It's actually the learning behind all of those years, which brings in for a child to be confidently presenting at 9 or 10 years old, presenting their work. So design thinking exists and is being done in the primary. However, the term design thinking is not so categorically used over there. Excellent. And just to, Zainab, I'll take a minute more.
Go for it. Of course.
Yeah. I hope I've answered your question, Sajitha. Now, getting onto the point what Annie made about with networking with teachers. I think so that is something which is very fantastic, and I've seen myself as well. That when you come to a new environment, new city, I could see some of my fellow teachers whom I had, reached out for help, like in the QA thing. I could see Adam Masters over there. I've reached him to, even we have never met personally, but he was always there to help out with queries or implementation. So, where it comes from, don't hesitate to connect with teachers. We are there for each other,
Yes.
So that's something the STEM teachers community is such a beautiful community that whether you know them personally or not, they're there to help you out. So that is something which we should be looking forward to.
That's a valuable point, a really valuable point. I've got to say, teachers aren't really used to having a LinkedIn profile, but I've got to say that I've only jumped onto LinkedIn recently, and it has completely changed how I lead, how I teach, because my network has just exploded. And I didn't realize how powerful that it can be, and the amount of people that you can reach out to just by things that they've posted. That has been amazing, and it's something that you really want to get involved in. I've had so many conversations with people from UK or all over the world, and it's just been so valuable to me as well. So it's been really, really nice. There is a question that's come in actually from Dr. Faras. Ritesh, this is for you. How can I measure my achievement with Dr. Faras? How can I measure my achievement with my students in implementing STEM? How do you measure achievements? Because sometimes we measure achievements from an academic perspective for exams. How would we try to measure achievement? How can you measure impact when we're trying to implement STEM? How do you know you're successful?
So one of the parameters that we use at our school is when, say, for example, middle school is doing challenge-based learning, right? They go through the STEM processes or learning throughout their curriculum, but at the end of the term, they actually don't have exams. We have taken away one term of exams for our students in the middle school. What we do is we give them a project which is given as a theme for that particular year. It may be solving an issue in a community or somewhere global at large, and that's where they need to show the knowledge in terms of how can all that come together to create a solution that's actually scalable. Now, I mean, being the incubator at our school, we try to bridge them with the industry, and then that's when we will basically measure the impact. What kind of impact it's going to have in the society when this entire project is going to go there. So per se, I mean, I don't know whether there is a single yardstick to measure impact of STEM, but the results of what the projects that they're doing and the exhibition that you will do even in terms of MIP inquiry exhibitions or UI exhibitions, that's when you will get to know that the learning that they have done has had some kind of impact on their overall understanding and development. So that's what we look at.
Excellent, Ritesh. Thank you so much. Something that I know me and Annie have done before as well is trying to show impact with a small group first. Showing their impacts is easier to track a very small group, and then you can showcase their understanding to a wider group, and then you get more and more people that will jump on into this mindset because you show that it works, right? You say, look, this is the impact. And like you say, it's not something you can measure with a yardstick. You can't show achievement in that way. So it can sometimes be very challenging and difficult to do so, especially when you're working with leadership above you. And you have to showcase that this is the impact. If we are able to throw finance in this area, could we get a much larger impact? Is there a way that we can network with other schools? And so it starts to open a lot more doors for you when you showcase what the students have achieved. Excellent. Annie, you mentioned, sorry, Annie, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to jump onto that.
No, please.
Zainab and I were just having a similar conversation the other day about impact and measuring impact. And like you say, if schools are going to invest in something or let you run with an idea, they want to know what the impact of that is going to be. How are they going to get something from this? And I think sometimes we don't have to think on a large scale. It could be as small as how many students are attending that STEM club after school, how many students have entered that competition, how many students are taking part in the eco club, or it can just be something as small as student participation, because that is showing that what we are doing is having an impact on the students within our school. So I think sometimes we try and think on a large scale, and it doesn't have to be that big. So yeah, I just wanted to add another one.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. Like some of our greatest ideas have started with 5 students only, and then just showcasing what they can do, and then that grows bigger and bigger among students, and you'll find more staff want to get involved at that point as well. Annie, I wanted to touch upon what you said before around your work that you did with females. And in terms of genders and the differences and the ways and techniques that what you've done to be able to encourage more females to come into STEM subjects. And like I said, I have seen this being quite successful, but why do you think that those gender gaps are there? Like, what do you think the issue is in the first place? Because even in computer science, it's very, very uneven. We have a lot more boys than girls. Yeah,
we're so similar with our subject. So when I first started engineering, I walked into the classroom and it was just a classroom full of boys, which is fine, but it was a mixed school, and I was like, where are all the girls? And I think we are lacking, I think it's got better, but I think we are lacking kind of these role models within STEM, and showing the students, and particularly girls, to try and close that gender gap, that they can have successful careers in engineering. I was having a look at some statistics during the course of the week, and I was looking at British Engines, and they had some really kind of worrying statistics. So they were saying that only 11% of engineers are women, and they also said that only 1% of undergrads were female. And however, if more females get into the engineering professions, then it can improve productivity by 15%. So they are all reasons why we should be encouraging more girls into these subjects. Now, I've done lots of work, like I mentioned before. One of the things was encouraging I invite around kind of options time. So when students are choosing their GCSE options, I was doing quite a lot of work around year 9 girls in particular, and they were I invited them, so I actually gave them an invite so that they felt really kind of proud and like, oh look, we've been invited to an event, and then gave them the opportunity to kind of try things out, because I think sometimes they have this preconception that engineering or technology is just kind of metal work, or we're just going to fix things. We're not going to actually come up with new ideas, and we're going to really innovate. So it's changing that mindset. And I have seen it over the course of of the years that I've been teaching, and more girls have chosen these kind of subjects to get involved with. And it was really interesting. Yesterday I was just watching the television, and there was an advert for Amazon, and it was an Amazon apprentice, and it was a female, and she was talking about how she retrained and now she's worked with Amazon. And it was really interesting that they've chosen a woman to be the face of that advert, and there's obviously reasons behind that, and I could understand those reasons, but it's just changing people's mindsets and perceptions. As a woman who teaches technology and engineering, I generally feel like I'm in a minority in the schools that I work in. It's still very much kind of a gender stereotype within design and technology. Food teachers are generally women. The engineering teachers are generally men. So being a woman like Alma in design and technology, girls will be able to look to us and think, oh, actually, I could do engineering. Miss Shaw teaches engineering, so why can't I take it? And it's just constantly trying to change those stereotypes, like you do with computer science as well.
Excellent, thank you. That's a really good point, and I like the fact that it's about role models and putting spotlights on the females as well. I've got a question for Ritesh from an attendee called Rachana. It was in terms of your answer before around kind of challenge-based learning and creating projects. How do you schedule these within your timetable? Do you have dedicated lessons for term-end projects? How do you try and manage the student activities within your own timetable and your workload? I think you might.
So that's a great question. All right. So I did touch upon something where I said we took out the examination for a term to facilitate this. The biggest time the educators spend in their entire year is on examinations or assessments, right? So what we did was, out of the 3 assessments we used to have for every grade, we have taken out 1 term of assessment from the grade 6, 7, and 8. So during that period, they do actually this challenge-based learning. Now, when you talk about integrating the entire process into the curriculum, yes, so when the teachers are transacting the curriculum in the classroom, whether it is for computer science or design or mathematics, they actually take into account all these future projects they're going to do with the children. They bring in all the elements into the curriculum itself. So it's part of the curriculum lessons, which they will use during the time which we have allocated to the students. Maybe it's 2 or 3 weeks time window that we give them to do research, to find projects they want to do, and finally have an exhibition with the industry experts. So we have actually taken out the exam to fit in the challenge-based learning.
Excellent. Thank you, Ritesh. And thank you to Almas and Annie as well. It was a really, really interesting conversation, and hopefully the attendees found it interesting as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zainab, and to all our speakers and panelists. A really, really massive thank you for sharing your thoughts and knowledge with us.